Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Jeff Cohen with Seller Labs, and I'm joined with Chris McCabe. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me on Seller Labs, Jeff.
Yeah. I wanted to cover, you're kind of, you see a lot of account suspensions. You kind of, you work with people that get into trouble with Amazon.
Yep.
And I wanted to kind of cover a couple of things that you and I talk about when we see each other at trade shows, when we stay up late at night and we're conversing. First thing I wanted to kind of cover, like there's a lot, I feel there's a lot of fear mongering that exists inside this world of Amazon, that Amazon sellers are terrified that they're going to be suspended. I'm curious, with the cases that you see, do good people get suspended? Are they valid in their fears of being suspended?
Good people are suspended because sometimes you just have a scattered bag of item quality complaints that don't really amount to much, but an investigator looks at the nature of some of the complaints that come in against you for item quality or condition, and they determine, whether they're being aggressive or harsh or not. They determine there's enough there to suspend you because they think more complaints might be coming. So
Right.
You can debate whether or not minor infractions are treated like major infractions, but it fits within their SOP for action they can take. And Amazon just tends to err on the side of action versus passing you and not suspending you.
So if I'm a user, what's going to be kind of my like red flag that's coming, right? I'm starting to get a lot of returns. Like
high rates of returns, similarities or patterns and complaints on the same ASIN. I mean, they're just looking at clusters of data and comments and detecting a pattern just the way you would if you looked in your own Seller Central account. I mean, I spent most of this year talking about preventing suspensions because I've seen so many nightmares around the actual suspension.
Right. Well,
and Amazon shifted to trying to warn you before a suspension too, by the way, the whole pre-POA thing, which didn't quite translate to sellers. You might get a random call from account health services or something, but they're still perfecting that, right? It's still unclear what they're actually trying to do if they're warning you before it hits.
So I have a general philosophy in management, right? My general philosophy in management is that nobody ever gets fired without knowing that they're going to get fired, right? Like, you're going to get fired before you get fired. Maybe you don't believe that you should get fired, but you should know that you're going to get fired. Do Amazon sellers that get suspended believe that they should have been suspended? Do they believe that they actually broke the rules, or is it kind of like is it a misunderstanding of the rules, or is it I didn't know the rules, or is it I don't agree with the rules, so I did it anyway?
Right. I mean, sometimes the rules are just vague when it comes to people getting suspended for like product review abuse simply because of the wording they had in their messages. A lot of sellers unknowingly are dissuading people from leaving negative reviews and only encouraging positive reviews, not because they're paying people off through Facebook or PayPal or whatever. It's just because of the way those messages are written. Now, is that specified in the reviews policy? It's pretty vaguely written so that they can reserve the right to interpret them as they see fit, right?
Right. And so what you're talking
vague on purpose. I mean, it's
let me just stop you really quickly. What you're saying is that what we've seen is that if you use suggestive language within your email solicitation, if this product is good, please leave me a review. If you
people are still doing that.
Please contact me.
People are still doing that. For the last 6 months, I've been saying, don't have that in your messaging. I still see it this week in people's messaging.
Oh, I've got a great example in my inbox right now that I've asked my team to write a blog on. That is so egregious and breaking the rules that
they haven't been reported. They haven't been reported.
Yeah, but I also believe that sellers, either A, they haven't looked at their messages in a long time. Or B, they actually don't believe that what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah. There are 2 or 3 main things I see people doing that are 100% preventable. These people get suspended, and if you stop doing these things overnight, you're probably okay.
Okay, so what are those?
That's one of them. Let's start with product, like the messaging, what you have in your messaging. By now, it's abundantly clear that if you induce positive review behavior like you just described, you're going to get suspended. Maybe not today if they don't find you, but if somebody buys from you, a competitor, and they report you, you're going to get suspended for that 9 times out of 10. It's the same thing with putting product inserts in your packaging.
Right.
Pretty much have the same type of approach where your competitor can just take a snapshot of it, send it to abuse teams, maybe 1 time out of 10 abuse teams will just delete the contact and nothing happens to you. The other 8 or 9 times you're going to get suspended. We already know this stuff. I still see people doing it. I think it's 100% preventable if you just stop doing it today, but people are still doing it. Maybe you know why. I'm not sure why. I think it's because of the reviews purge and they're trying to get their reviews back or something.
Well, yeah, I think it's I think it's a couple of things. I think part of it is that people are they're in a situation where they just don't know.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm guessing you have a lot of people who come to you and say, I got suspended. I've done nothing wrong. And then you go, well, you're doing this, 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 and this. And they go, oh, I didn't realize those were wrong.
Maybe 75% say I didn't do anything wrong and I'm being treated unfairly. Yeah.
So how often do you believe, I want to get to the other two, but how often do you believe people say I'm done nothing wrong and I'm being treated unfairly, and they're actually did nothing wrong and they're being treated unfairly?
How often do they say it and they've actually done nothing wrong? That's a minority of the cases.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just say that because they don't understand the way the messaging is written in the notification. So they'll say, like, I don't get what I'm suspended for, but then if I explain it to them, they're like, oh yeah, I can see why that would happen.
Right.
But and then there's the psychological part, like just losing your business denial, which is, I didn't do anything wrong. I have to defend myself. I have to deny this. It's just like denial. Right. I mean, which is normal, natural. It's not just business. It's what people do for anything when they're, up against it.
Okay. So you said three things.
The second thing I would say, this concept that everyone's an infringement expert, everyone's a rights owner expert or an IP attorney, and sellers start reporting infringements using, I'm not sure what criteria, this whole like, well, it's materially different, I'm going to report this guy for an intellectual property violation, or I think this is a trademark violation, I'm going to submit. All you do is see the other party knock that down with a notice dispute, and then Amazon starts circling you for notice claim abuse. So more sellers are being suspended for that. I mean, that's 100% avoidable because you can just not do that.
Yep.
You can just not, and some sellers are now creating services, right? Brand protection services. I think a few were scared away because they heard about the suspensions, but others are still doing this. I don't know why, because they're not attorneys themselves. Maybe they're consulted by attorneys who are just collecting a fee.
Or they just believe they believe they know.
They believe they know. I mean, there's a variety of financial incentives and other things. Maybe they're just trying to get away with it for a short amount of time. But if you get suspended, you can't say, well, this law firm told me I could do this, because they're not suspending the law firm. They're suspending you.
Yep.
So that's between you and the law firm. Amazon doesn't care. They're getting unsubstantiated notice forms and they're tired of it. It's the same as product review abuse. They suspend so quickly, not just in Q4, because they're sick of this crap.
Right.
I mean, that's what I hear in dribs and drabs from people, is like, listen, at this point, everyone knows this stuff is against the rules. If you want to keep gambling with your account and the fate of your business, go ahead, but we're going to suspend you every time.
All right. So what's the number three thing that people are doing that's completely avoidable?
And the third thing is ASIN variation suspensions, which I'm sure you heard about the last few weeks. There was a huge spike in those.
So let's just kind of explain for people that don't know what that is.
People using the wrong criteria for creating a child ASIN. So if you're taking a non-parent ASIN, another child ASIN, and branching those out into more child ASINs, you're creating children from a child, which is against the rules. A lot of people don't know that it's against the rules, simply because they look on the site and they see a bunch of other people doing it. Or like multi-packs, right? People are using quantity as a variation criterion versus just size and color.
Or I've even seen people try to find an old ASIN that has reviews and try to child off of that to get the review bump from that.
Well, I mean, some people were doing that to get their deleted reviews back.
Yeah.
Because they would contact, I mean, that's a longer story in terms of they were trying to do an ASIN merge and fold the new ASIN to the old ASIN and then say, well, we need the reviews back on the old ASIN to make this make sense. And some people made that work. I don't know if that loophole is still working.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's avoidable too, because if you hire people or you do learn this stuff yourself, you won't make those easy mistakes now that you know that people are being suspended for it. So
awesome. So we basically kind of what we discussed so far is that 75% of the people who get suspended don't believe they've done anything wrong, but actually have violated the rules in some way, shape, or form. You've explained three different avoidable tactics that people are getting suspended for: the misuse of variations, the language within product review solicitation. So I just want to be clear, it's not actually soliciting the review that's getting you in trouble. It's the language that you're using.
The way you do it. Yeah.
And then creating notice disputes for your competitor, trying to do infringement takedowns and things like that.
Right. It's a workaround for exclusivity. You're trying to be the exclusive reseller
Right.
of a brand, which, I mean, that's not a good workaround to get you suspended.
So as we wrap up here, I'd like to cover a couple of one last thing, which is that Amazon recently made some announcements about changes into Seller Central. Can you kind of explain what those changes are and how they'll affect a seller?
Yeah, I think they just want to make account health more readable. We should all agree that the way it is now, people resolve like safety complaints or IP complaints or authenticity complaints, and then that like 1 or 2 or 3 number takes forever to change or drop off.
Right.
It's been just a clumsy tool, and it's hard to read, it's hard to understand, and you have to send all these different appeals, to try to get individual ASINs reinstated. My understanding is the new portal is going to be easier to read, just better user seller experience. Easier to read, easier to understand. You get something resolved, it shows resolved like sooner or right away. And you have a better sense that they're going to use like data to determine whether or not you should lose a listing for one safety complaint out of 10,000 orders versus just these stray complaints that you might not even be able to see in Seller Central. Sometimes it's an anecdotal complaint that you don't even have, right? Do you understand what I mean?
I do.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. The way it's been working since they started this whole account health thing has been nuts.
Yeah, I think that the intention of it was good, right? A lot of things that we have to see with Amazon is the intention of it is good. It's a way to give you the understanding of what's happening within your account. Right. But I think that they're getting the feedback from the voice of the customer, from us as the sellers. They're making adjustments. They're making it easier for us to digest the information, for us to use the information, and for us to run healthy accounts. And that's what we're ultimately trying to do. So
I'm hoping one thing they add is the complaint reason, the actual text of the buyer complaint, like every time, not just.
Yeah, that'd be nice to have.
The additional information box that you see now that never has anything in it. Just saying like, we're not going to give you the order number, but the buyer complained of, and not just give you a general used, sold as new.
Yeah.
You have to go read the tea leaves and figure it out. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. And there's definitely users who just click on buttons, right? Buyers who just click on buttons to get a return. So I think Amazon adjusts that into their algorithm as well.
I hope so.
So we'll today I'm on with Chris McCabe from Ecom Chris.
E-commerce Chris.
What's that? E-commerce Chris.
E-commerce Chris.
E-commerce Chris. His contact information will be below. Thank you for joining us and sharing some information for how to help Amazon sellers avoid suspension and keep their accounts healthy.
Thanks.